Welcome to another live stream. I recently made another this is the second one. I made some changes. Anyway, we're gonna join a new server. Why do I smell? What is this? Got proficient. What is this smell? Oh my goodness. Okay, hey guys, so today we're going to be playing Dragon 8 once again. This time, I got my own private sub. Yes, that's right. I got my own private sub. Please donate. So if the rich people want to donate, you should want to donate in my actual server. No, I'm not gonna be in this. You guys want to join my private server? Okay. Welcome, guys. Welcome. This is a private server. Hey guys, so today we're gonna be in a private server for today because we're going to send you a link. Yes, a link. We're gonna send you a link. We're sending you winks. We're sending you weeks. We're gonna send you winks to the private server. Okay, this is just going to be a normal stream. Gotta wait for a couple of days. Anyone who is kind enough to join the live stream. Do. Oh God! You absolute buffoon! What an absolute buffoon! That is crazy. That's insane that you don't know that, oh, no. What's a spider that went on a tree, but then the spider never went on the tree? That's right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's exactly what I want. Yes. A spider that never landed on the tree, but then the tree went on the spider. That is crazy. That the spider that went on the tree, but then the tree never went on the spider. What about that? This is a spider. What's a spider spider? What's a spider spider? Do you know what a spider spider is? You don't know what a spider spider? Spider spiders. They're quite dangerous. You don't know what spider spiders are? I'll show you. Battle cats. I gotta get my energy up, so we gotta get some battle cats montage real quick. Whoa, we also have to go back here. Anyone gonna kiss the bait in the Goofy server? You got, which one should you watch? Oh, let's watch this. Yeah, we should watch all.
Trisha has 6 kids, all with chronic illnesses.
We are. This is
Means more specialty prescriptions, more screenings, and more in-person checkups. But CVS Health supports Trisha with all that and more. CVS Health. Healthier happens together.
Listen, I don't ask for much. Naps, belly rubs on my terms, and of course, a tower to survey my kingdom. Oh.
Sub-chapters are a core part of Battle Cat's gameplay.
Right.
Combined, they make up the vast majority of stages that a player will end up playing. Subchapters can be a great way to show the players new mechanics, enemies, or stage concepts, all without requiring too much of a content overhaul from Ponos. There's a ton of subchapters in the game, 110 different ones as of today, and I decided that it would be a pretty fun idea to rank them all from worst to best. I'm going to be ranking these subchapters on a handful of different criteria. The quality of each individual stage in the subchapter is pretty important, as having a lot of fillers or bad stages aren't gonna make a subchapter too good.
Excuse me, bud? Nothing. Does nothing. Okay, nothing. Okay, got it. Anyone who joins the sub first.
Likewise, the subchapter should also have some standout stages that prove to be very memorable, whether difficult or just interesting. Memorability as a whole is one of the most important factors, as if a subchapter is forgettable, it might not have been worth your time, but it would be a core part of your gameplay experience if it was memorable. Originality is also a good thing to have in a subchapter, as you don't want your subchapters to feel samey or copy-pasted. The last aspect I can think of is how complete the subchapter feels overall, which is just whether it fits well with itself, provides a good cut-and-dry experience, and works well as a subchapter, a select part of the overall Legend series as a whole that contributes to the quality of the entire experience. Because we have so many different subchapters, there's going to be a lot of quality difference between the absolute worst and absolute best. This is also going to take a very long time, because I have to rank 110 different subchapters. So strap in and get ready, because we're about to rank every Legend subchapter in the Battle Cats right now. Starting off with the F tier. These subchapters are pretty much a waste of time and space. They would be better off replaced with pretty much anything, with how meaningless they are, and they definitely deserve to be known as the worst subchapters in the game. Starting off with 110. What is the worst subchapter in the game, you might ask? Well, my choice for the bottom pick has to go to Never-Ending Cat Story, or Stories of Legend 11. Remember what I just discussed for what makes a subchapter good? Well, throw it out the window, because this subchapter has absolutely none of those qualities. Literally every stage is just a blatantly copy-pasted version of a prior stage, just with higher magnifications. This subchapter does not have a single redeeming quality. There are 0 memorable stages, none of them are particularly good either, nor difficult at all, and don't even have a coherent theme. You can't really give any sort of compliment to Never-Ending Cat Story, which is why it's my pick for the absolute bottom of the barrel when it comes to subchapters. 109. Castle of Fish. This subchapter is basically the same thing as Never-Ending Cat Story, except it's a copy of Glucosamine Desert instead of Passionland. Same issues and no redeemable qualities. You could say that this one goes lower because it's even less original by reusing a gimmick, but I think Never-Ending Cat Story gets the bottom spot because it started the trend where early Stories of Legends at this point kept reusing way too much content from previous subchapters, which single-handedly made early Stories of Legends a lot worse. Nevertheless, Castle of Fish is pretty much equally as bad. 108. Eminent Disaster. And now for the third copy and pasted subchapter in a row. This one comes much later though, being at the tail end of Uncanny Legends. While it isn't a complete copy and paste, it might as well be, considering the only change made from the original subchapter to this one is the addition of Aku Doges in its singular stage, along with an Aku altar. While it does have the benefit of being more challenging than the previous 2 subchapters, the Aku Doges don't even affect the stage much, as the strategy is still identical. You use crowd control units to subdue Relic Bun Bun. This subchapter could have had a lot of potential, but it was wasted on a boring rehash of a single stage. 107. Moodist Beach. Our first completely original subchapter on this list, except not really. It's a gimmick subchapter a lot like the Grotesque Gallery, except what Grotesque Gallery had in originality, Moodist Beach captures absolutely none of that, with even less fun stages. Tear-Soaked Puppy is a remake of Cubist Crimes, except with Little Doge RNG added. on a stage that straight up kills you if you don't one-shot the base or take too long. Isn't that just wonderful? The other stages either have boring or straight up reused gimmicks, and the final stage isn't a gimmick stage but just a completely normal stage thrown in. Ancient Sea Blues isn't the worst stage, introducing 2 new enemies in JJ Jackrabbit and Golem Sunfish, but it isn't the best either, and is in no way enough to place this complete joke of a subchapter any higher.
What does Amazon Live mean to me?
Oh my gosh.
It's just like my little community. I love.
Next up, we have which is filled with subchapters that I consider pretty flawed in a lot of ways. Whether being extremely forgettable or just filled with tons of bad stages, these subchapters could have been improved in a lot of ways. I do think that these subchapters do have some form of merit, however, but the good just doesn't outweigh the bad for me. 106, Laboratory Island. I hate this subchapter. It's one of the most forgettable and meaningless subchapters in UL, a point in the game where you'd think Ponos would be good enough with stage design to consistently make good subchapters. And while they do for the most part, Laboratory Island sticks out as a subchapter where you can't really remember a single stage from, as every stage here is just mediocre at best and annoying at worst. Not even challenging in a good way, but annoying with how much RNG can be at play with the stages like Formalin Marina and Microscope Bridge. There aren't even any new enemies introduced. While it does feel coherent as a subchapter, the complete lack of anything of note makes this one of the most soulless subchapters in the whole game, and one that I'll personally be hating on for the end of time. 105, Dawn of the Beginning. This is another nothing burger of a subchapter. Pretty much every stage here is forgettable or just not very good. This subchapter also has no new enemy introduced. Dilemma of Birth is a well-known barrier stacking stage, but we've seen these types of stages before already. This subchapter does have Passionate Release, however, which is an alright stage, but more importantly, is named after a very specific action. Given how this entire subchapter's stages are named after Birth and Beginning, it doesn't take much to put 2 and 2 together to realize what Passionate Release is alluding to. So yeah, that's a stage name that exists. 104, Here Be Dragons. For being the first normal subchapter in UL, you'd think that a whole Legend Saga worth of stage designing experience would have been enough for Ponos to start making great subchapters. But well, Here Be Dragons is a subchapter highly derivative of Stories of Legends subchapter 2, which is not suited for UL tier gameplay. Half of the subchapter is way too easy and boring, and while the other half isn't bad, it's not exactly what I'd call good either. Old Horn is introduced here, and by introduced I mean there's a stage that spawns a single Old Horn and nothing else. Mince Hill at the end of the subchapter brings him justice, but that isn't enough to compensate for how many misses this subchapter has. 103, Marine Ministry. This subchapter is a gimmick subchapter like Mood.
Hey, who just joined? Weird.
Beach, but the stages are at least a lot more functional. Multi-Tetrapod is a pretty funny stage, but outside of that, the rest of the subchapter is pretty lackluster and boring. 102, Garden of Wilted Thoughts. As the first subchapter with a legend boss in Zero Legends, this particular subchapter has a lot to live up to. It's meant to set the standard for Zero Legends bosses, similar to how Urarun and Dogumaru set the standard for their saga's respective boss rosters. So, does it live up to expectations? Not in the slightest. The first 5 stages range from rather lacking to laughably bad when it comes to stage design, but the cherry on top of this steaming pile of garbage is none other than Adherence to Virtue. Where do I even begin? This stage is an absolute affront to stage design, boss design, and Battle Cats as a whole. The boss, Socrates, Seems like he came straight out of a 9-year-old's Battle Cats boss concept. Unlike every other boss in the game, Socrates doesn't have any weaknesses. He has very high HP, monstrous pushing power, excellent range and pierce, and is resistant to crowd control. This is in stark contrast to pretty much every other boss in the game. Zero Luza is a good example. He has very high HP, a monstrous attack stat, and is excellent range and pierce. So what's the difference? Zero Luza can't push on his own. That's his weakness. He's really slow and easy to keep at bay when alone. Socrates takes that concept and laughs in its face. Socrates simply does everything. He's
Oh, hey. Hello. Oh, hi. We're back.
so oppressive that his stage is literally just him and Doge Darks, because if he had support that was any stronger, the stage would become literally impossible. There's no freedom when it comes to strategy either. Socrates is so stupidly restrictive on how you fight him that you're pretty much forced to run Octo and Cyberpunk. There is no other strategy to beat him for the average player, which goes against what Battle Cats is all about. Good stages allow you to express your playstyle while still being fun and challenging, but this stage does the exact opposite. I know that players are waiting for a new stage to step up in difficulty, but this definitely isn't the way to do it. The only redeeming factor is that the BGM for the stage is very well composed, though at this point we're just grasping for straws to find any sort of positives. So as the first Zero Legends boss, Socrates fails miserably at creating an engaging boss fight, unlike Urarun and Dogumaru's fights. And speaking of Dogumaru, 101 Depths of My Heart. Now, let me get this straight. Primitive Souls is an amazing stage, and Dogumaru is an amazing boss. So why is this subchapter so low, you might ask? This subchapter has some of the most embarrassingly bad stages ever made in UL. A Joyful Song is just 2 Moths, an Otham, and Relic Doges, with 0 pushing power on the field, and no threat at all. Cave Maidens is even worse, which is just random low power alien enemies as the entire stage. Hermit Chatterbox is 8 Project A's and random zombie peons. And don't get me started on Good Spirits, which is literally 2 toucans and some Sorrels. These stages are just so bad and make no impressions on the player whatsoever that the entire subchapter's quality is compromised to be one of the worst, with Primitive Souls essentially being a singular gold bar in an entire landfill of garbage. Woods of Resentment is another okay stage, but 1 great stage, 1 decent stage, and 4 utter garbage stages do not make a good subchapter in my opinion. Moving on to C tier. These subchapters are not too bad, just pretty average and okayish for the most part. A lot of these subchapters lack memorability and are very mediocre, but do have a few good points which make them reasonable to exist.
For the love of food, save the leftovers. Ziploc.
Dying like the beast. Pre-order now.
100. ZL12, translated to Karume Utopia. This is the first ZL subchapter on this list aside from Garden of Wilted Thoughts, and it suffers from pretty much the same issue. All of the stages are incredibly boring and easy, some of them even looking like they could appear in Stories of Legends, which is not a compliment. Dr. KO is introduced here. He's a pretty nothing enemy, but does add a small amount of memorability to this unremarkable subchapter. This is also the newest subchapter on this list, which doesn't give the future of ZL a very good look. 99. A New Legend. This is a single stage subchapter featuring an ancient curse, which is the boss fight against Relic Bunbun. This is a pretty infamous fight, requiring proper relic counters to make the stage possible, with little counterplay otherwise. This is also one of the most common places for players to outright drop the game because they got stuck and didn't want to get past this roadblock. While I do think the fight is flawed, there are a lot of redeeming aspects of the stage thematically and within the bigger picture of the game. It really does feel like the proper entrance test to get into UL, and it's a stage which you'll feel really good to get past. But overall, A New Legend is pretty lacking, with just a few good things for it to narrowly make it to C tier. Oh, and it looks like we've reached that point of the list where there's going to be a giant spam of early Stories of Legend. The earliest subchapters of Stories of Legend are filled with a ton of filler and pretty forgettable. So I just decided to group most of them right here. We're gonna go through them like it's a lightning round, starting with 98, Glucosamine Desert. This subchapter introduces Celebudo and Dachshund. Apart from that, nothing is really notable. 97, Sushi Island. This subchapter introduces director Kurosawa. Apart from that, nothing else is really notable. 96, Bamboo Island. This subchapter introduces Rain D, quite a lot of them. Apart from that, nothing else is really notable. 95, Swimming Cats. This subchapter introduces the Sloth, a very memorable and powerful backliner. Apart from that, nothing else is really notable. 94, The Scratching Post. This is a subchapter with pretty mediocre stages and some remakes of stages from Risque Terrain. One of these is Crunchy Pillar, which was a somewhat difficult stage back in the day. But aside from that, it's not very notable. 93, Western Street. This subchapter introduces J.K. Bun Bun. The fight itself against him is pretty difficult for some new players, so he might be a little memorable. Besides that, nothing else is really notable here. 92, Passionland. This subchapter introduces Master A, who is a really big early game menace which will bully the player for many subchapters to come. Aside from that, this subchapter is, you guessed it, not very notable. 91, Risque Terrain. A pretty nice subchapter for early game. Twin Peaks is a decent stage, and Thriller Bridge is also pretty good. They aren't exceptionally good though, as this is just early game.